Hello everybody and welcome to our final video in our complete Battle for Zendikar set review. We're going to go over all of the artifacts, colorless, and land cards today. I am Evan Irwin.
I'm Brad Nelson.
Yes, and we are going to begin with the artifacts, including Aligned Hedron Network, also known as the Super Oblivion Ring of Super Awesomeness. It is a 4-mana artifact that is rare. When it enters the battlefield, exile all creatures with power 5 or greater until it leaves the battlefield. Obviously doesn't hit Siege Rhino, because why would it? Why should
why would anything deal with Siege Rhino?
Nothing ever really should. So this is a really cool design. I actually got to give it up to Wizards, man. This is a really sweet, neat design. I love the artwork. I love how it's very thematic. I think that all works. But I don't think this is getting anywhere in Constructed.
No, not at all. I don't even think it's that good in Limited because it's the 5 power clause. Like, there's a lot of 4-power creatures.
Right.
And it's like part of the whole set is it's not really going to hit any creatures that aren't Eldrazi because nothing really has 5 power in the set.
Right.
Besides them. So, like, I just think it's just a bad Magic card.
I mean, there's a few green creatures that's going to hit sort of incidentally, and that's cool.
Sure.
And there's that black-red guy with haste and whatever, but he's also an Eldrazi. But regardless, I think it feels weirdly bad. It feels weird that this card is bad. I don't get it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they don't want to give, like, Colorless this powerful an effect, I guess. But I don't know why. Like, green, like, it's green removal.
You don't... you don't really want this card to be that good, right?
Yeah, because you don't want to give green removal, I think. And that's, like, the big thing.
Right.
But, yeah, at the end of the day, I think this card is just unplayable in all formats, even Limited, which kind of sucks.
God, that sucks so bad. It's just weird that it's bad, but it's bad.
Yeah, it's bad.
Next, Hedron Archive, not bad. Card is fantastic.
Nope.
This is the super duper Mind Stone, fitting right in between Dreamstone Archive and Mind Stone is Hedron Archive. It might be a different Dreamstone something or other. Regardless, this Hedron Archive is a 4-mana artifact. You tap to add 2 colorless, or 2 colorless tap, sack, draw 2 cards. This card is just goodness all around.
Yeah, it is. It's a wonderful card. I've already played it in Standard. It's been great.
Mm-hmm.
And I really love just the story of Jace talking to Ugin. That's part of the flavor text.
Right.
But for the card itself, it's going to cast the Eldrazi's. It's going to draw you some cards. It's constructed playable, limited playable. Just a really good card.
Yeah. This is like 100%. Like in Sealed, you 100% play every copy you have this card. It is great. It powers out all your monsters. It draws you cards, which is fantastic. And when it has a line on it with and how did that work out last time? From Jace.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic piece of, a flavor text. So kudos on that one. I love the fact that we've kind of completed the 2-mana Mind Stone into the Dreamstone for 6 mana that had, tap for 3 and 3 tap sack to draw 3. And, this really sort of fits that missing piece in there. And it is also a really great card.
Yeah, it might just be the best version of it. Like, besides, Mind Stone's the best. Let's go on.
Mind Stone's the best. But still, Hedron Blade is a sweet artifact. It's a 1-mana equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+1. Whenever equipped creature becomes blocked by 1 or more colorless creatures, however, it gains Death Touch until end of turn, and you may equip it for 2 colorless. So you have your Leonin Scimitar. Leonin Scimitar. However, this one costs a little bit more to equip, but it does hose Eldrazi and any colorless creature quite handily.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting because you're never going to block with one of your colorless creatures if it's not going to trade anyway.
Right.
And it is a little slow for the equipment. I just don't feel like the equipment are going to be that good in this format. There's not a lot of lifelink, and it's just I just don't feel like this card's that powerful.
I don't know if it's that powerful. I think it's good. I don't think it's great, but I think it is okay. However, the equipment I am positive is fantastic is Pathway Arrows. Pathway Arrows is a 1 colorless equipment. Equipped creature has 2 tap. This creature does 1 damage to target creature. If it was a colorless creature that was dealt damage this way, you tap it, and you equip it for 2 mana. So this card is super, super good in my opinion. I think it taps down all the important creatures that you want to tap down. It can still kill Scions in that regard. And yeah, Viridian Longbow was a card back in Mirrodin Block, and it was amazing. And this card seems to be very similar. And again, based on my limited experience, it is certainly doing what you want it to do in Limited.
Yeah, Scimitar is a much better card just for the fact that once it's equipped, you don't have to pay mana anymore.
Right.
But this one does have that clause of tapping the Eldrazi and the other creatures down, which is really powerful. So I do think that this card is going to be fabulous and limited. There's a lot of creatures it kills. There's a lot of creatures it's going to hold down.
Right.
And it's a use for the extra mana in decks that are going to want extra mana anyway because of all the landfall triggers.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the decks are going to have just mana lying around anyway. And, apart from the fact that I love the artwork and that it's a Hedron arrowhead, I think that's awesome.
Yeah,
that is.
You see that in all the art, actually. Like, they've been really, like you said earlier in the set review, like, Wizards has been really trying to push all the art and the flavor and the storyline, and you just see it throughout all of the cards. You see a lot of arrows and spears actually having Hedrons attached to them.
Yes, I love it.
And it's really cool.
Yeah, the flavor text, also called Pathway Stones, Hedron shards can immobilize Eldrazi on contact.
Yeah, so cool.
That is super sweet. I love that to death. And so the ability to, at the end of their turn, tap down to one of the Eldrazi, during your turn, tap down another devoid creature, like, this card I think is really, really sweet. Moving on, we're going to talk about Pilgrim's Eye, a reprint from Worldwake. Am I correct in that?
Yeah.
Which is a terrific creature. It is a 3-mana Thopter that is a 1/1 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle. This card is value all the way around.
Oh yeah, it's so good in this format for helping the ally decks hit all of the colors. If you're playing more than 2, it helps all the converge decks. And it helps like the bone splinters of the world and all of those effects as well. So like I think that this card is good in many different strategies, and it was good last time, and a lot of decks like to play it. It's just a wonderful card. And again, like the flavor of this format, like the further you get into Magic, the better the flavor texts are in my mind. Like I used to not care about flavor texts, but now I do because they're all so good. And this is another one that just tells the story of the Eldrazi winning the war. And
yeah, it's a beautiful piece of flavor text. I mean, like basically you described that it is good in literally every deck.
Yeah.
It's good because in Rally/Ally decks, it fixes your colors. In Landfall, it gets you a land. In Eldrazi, it gets you forward. In Converge decks, it gets all of your colors. Like it's good everywhere.
Yeah, it's just a very good card. It's not like a first pick because you always want your removal or your bombs and stuff like that, but it's always really good like 3rd through 5th pick.
Yeah, you're never going to be like, oh man, I got 2 Pilgrim's Eyes. This sucks. You're like, no man, I got 2 Pilgrim's Eyes. This is great.
Yeah, this is awesome. It's going to trade with something. It like even the Scions that are attacking is going to block them.
Right.
There's a lot of creatures that blocks. Wonderful card.
Yeah, card is absolutely terrific. So Slab Hammer is next, a 2-mana equipment. Whenever a equipped creature attacks, you may return a land you control to its owner's hand. If you do, the equipped creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn, and you equip it for 2 mana. It is, as its flavor text, I think, accurately describes, it is neither subtle or pretty.
Yeah, this card is actually really good and limited. Because like just on turn 4 you can play it, equip, bounce your land, attack. It keeps triggering all your landfall. I think this card is close to constructed playable.
What? Really?
For like a landfall trigger deck. Well, it's so if you get stuck on 4 lands, like just think of it this way: like if you get stuck, you can return a land, don't play it that turn, wait till next turn, play it. Or it can actually get you to like 5 mana. You can play like a 3-drop, bounce one of those lands, play a 2-drop at the next turn.
Doesn't Sword of the Animus just do all of that better?
Searches your library for a basic and puts into play tapped. I think a lot of those decks, well, you only get you do trigger all your landfall, but you probably run out of basics, right? Like because you're going to be playing like 12 to 14 fetch lands plus 3 or 4 dual lands plus like 6 basics, so maybe you don't run out. Maybe Sword is better.
I mean, like
Sword might be better.
It might be better just because it triggers like landfall on attacking. You don't necessarily have to have a land in your hand first,
you can get double trigger,
right? And you can get the double trigger, and how many times do you really need to activate landfall in order to win the game? Is another question.
Sure, yeah.
Which is there. So
I forgot about Sword because it wasn't good last time, but I do know that this card is ridiculous in sealed and in draft because I played with it. And it was doing some disgusting things, especially with the 2/1 landfall trample guy.
Oh,
that dealt a lot of damage.
That's insane. Yeah. So yes, it is very, very good and limited. I don't think it's going to get there in constructed, but I think it's super sweet where it's super sweet.
We'll see.
All right, so now we're going to go to our colorless cards. We're not stopping. We're going into
we've got the Colorless and some more lands.
The Bane of Bala Ged. We only have one instance of Annihilator, but it is like Super Annihilator on this 7-drop. A 7-mana uncommon Eldrazi as a 7/5. Whenever it attacks, defending player exiles 2 permanents he or she controls. So it is a Super Annihilator of 2. This card is very powerful, very strong, and can end games just like Annihilator used to.
Yeah, this is super powerful card. One of the best Eldrazi because Annihilator is so great. And I feel like Bane like took a nap and hibernated and came back to see what's happening. It's like, what are you all doing? You're all drunk. Like, this is what we do. Back in my day, we just destroyed things. We didn't need to get cute with our abilities.
Yeah, we would just attack and make things happen.
Yeah.
So, okay.
And it's like the only one, and it's still really great. Like, Annihilator was unbelievable. When I start seeing the Eldrazi, I'm like, oh, they don't annihilate anymore? That's like not that cool. And they just gave us one that at least does it.
They gave you one, and I saw some guy at the pre-release literally remove every permanent his opponent had with Bane of Bala Ged. It was nasty. Bane is just like, what are you all processing things for? I'm just going to win the game now.
Yeah, I'm just going to kill things and do stuff.
Absolutely insane. So this is the uncommon. However, the rare is Blight Herder. It's a 5-mana 4/5 Eldrazi processor. When you cast Blight Herder, you may put 2 cards your opponents own from exile into their graveyards, and if you do, you put 3 1/1 Eldrazi Scion creature tokens on the battlefield. They have sack it to add 1 to your mana pool. So this guy is a 5-mana, potentially 7 power, 8 toughness, spread across 4 guys. This is a bomb rare.
Oh, this is a disgusting bomber. Think of it like in a blue-black deck. That's so much power and toughness for a blue-black deck.
Oh, yeah.
Like, this is what you want to open. Like, you want to open a Blight Herder. You want to play with it as often as you can. Like, this is the card that's going to help you also accelerate into your other Eldrazi. Like, this is just the one of the best processors.
Absolutely. This card is just, I mean, it's good all the way up and down. 5-mana 4/5 is fine stats, but when you get all of that upside, it's going to power out the rest of your Eldrazi. It's going to provide you all these attackers and blockers. Like, this is a fantastic card. We're going to move on now to Breaker of Armies. I like some of these names. It's just like, I'm going to crush you.
Yeah.
You know, he's going to break you. I'm breaking your armies. For 8 mana, it's a 10/8, and all creatures able to block it must do so. So, yeah, this guy, he's going to get chumped a lot, and it's kind of nice that Wizards, like, kind of tells your opponent you need to chump this guy and not take 10 damage.
What do you mean? It's not chump. It's forced all creatures to
I know, but like in a way, you know, you're going to be able to chump it essentially because you should be attacking with everything but like 1 or 2 creatures.
Oh, sure.
And you're like, oh yeah, you don't want to take 10. I'm just going to chump it so I don't take 10 damage because 8 mana 10/8s are really awesome.
Yeah, this card is disgusting, and I mean, literally and figuratively.
Nice.
And I mean, that art, man,
Dude.
It looks like if Team Fortress 2 had end bosses. That's what it looks like. It's so cartoony. It doesn't look like a real threat.
Yeah, this one in particular, it just seems like the coloring maybe isn't as vivid and as striking as some of the other ones, and as a result, it just kind of looks almost like a toy or something.
Yeah, it does. But yeah, so I mean, card's really good. Very good Eldrazi. This is a good one to ramp into. The 8/9, you know, the common version. Has nothing on Breaker of Armies.
Yeah, Breaker of Armies will break you.
Yeah.
Yes.
And your army.
It will, like, Rocky for you, totally. Conduit of Ruin is a 6-mana 5/5 rare Eldrazi. When you cast it, you may search your library for a colorless creature card with converted mana cost 7 or greater, reveal it, shuffle your library, and put that card on top of it. And the first creature spell you cast each turn costs 2 colorless less to cast. Now note, when you play him, that was the first creature you cast that turn, so you're not going to get that bonus until your next turn. However, a 6-mana 5/5 that goes and finds an Eldrazi in your deck is awesome, whether it's draft, whether it's sealed, like you're able to go find your fatties. I guess there is a question as to, is this good enough for Constructed?
I don't think so. There's just too much competition at 6 mana, and I don't really think, like I think the, I forgot what it's called, but I can scroll down because we have a new system. It's the Oblivion Sower is just a better effect.
Right.
Just because I think that getting the ramp is real, because this creature will die and then you won't be able to cast your Eldrazi. But the cool thing about this card is I actually read on social media that Ben Hayes said that this card went from brain to print with almost 0 changes. They might have changed like one thing about it, but somebody created this card out of thin air, and they didn't change anything about it, which is fantastic because this is one of the most unique cards in the set.
Yeah, it does a lot of weird things, a lot of unique things, and I think the artwork is cool. I think the card is very strong, and I always want to open something like this in these sealed pools in these draft decks.
Oh yeah, very good card in Limited.
Absolutely. So we're going to take a look at Deathless Behemoth, a 6-mana 6/6 uncommon Eldrazi with Vigilance. You sacrifice 2 Eldrazi Scions to return it from the graveyard to your hand. Activate this ability only anytime you can cast a sorcery. This card is, again, I think as we're going to be saying a lot, very strong.
Yeah, it's weird how these gigantic monsters are, the heart of the whole format are good.
It's weird. Like the whole set's kind of built around these monsters and fighting them.
Yeah, and so yeah, they're all awesome. Every single one of them, if you can cast them, are good enough to win the game.
Absolutely, and Deathless Behemoth is no different, and it's really easy to get him back if they actually killed him already, and if he doesn't just like beat your opponent to death anyway. Vigilance is often underrated when it comes to being on a very large creature, because the ability to have this monster wall that is also attacking with no drawback is significant.
Yeah, Mantis Rider is awesome for that specific reason. I mean, Haste and Vigilance were why that card was so good, because it got to interact all the time, and that's what Deathless Behemoth gets to do.
There you go. So, moving on to Desolation Twin, which is fantastic. I'm just going to keep saying it, Brad.
Yeah,
just doing it.
20 power for 10. That's a good rate.
10 mana, 10/10 rare Eldrazi. When you cast it, you put a 10/10 colorless Eldrazi creature token on the battlefield. Oh my god.
You can counter that. That's fine. I still get a 10/10.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Even if you counter it, you just had to cast this guy and you're guaranteed a 10/10. A 10/10 is happening, sir.
Yeah.
The question is one or two.
You like it or not? Yeah. Yeah, one or two.
1 or 2.
Yeah, card's great. I saw BBD crush someone with it at the pre-release.
Yeah.
I mean, once it comes down, what are you going to do?
You're going to hope that you have some flyers, because this thing is ridiculous. And yeah, I mean, like, it can't make my Timmy heart feel any better than to get 2 10/10s for 10 mana. Oh, I just love it.
Yeah, card's great.
I love it. Always super great. Okay, Eldrazi Devastator. God, these cards are so sweet. 8 mana, 8/9 trample. That's common. This is the closest thing to Ulamog's Crusher that you have. It is extremely good. You need to ramp right into it, but man, these Eldrazi are insane.
Yeah, but I will say the one weird thing about this one compared to other ones is I feel like this is like, you could have, like, back in Rise of Eldrazi, if I saw this art, I'm like, oh, that's like the King Eldrazi.
Yeah.
Like, I know Emrakul is gigantic and awesome, but this looks like it should be a legendary Eldrazi, not like the weakest of them.
Yeah, not the common, right?
Yeah, not the common Eldrazi,
Right.
yeah.
This is
like, this thing just looks gigantic. And I did play with this, and it's very good.
Yeah, it seems incredibly awesome. So, yeah, you'll want to pick these and play these and rock out, with your Devastator, because he's super good. Super good. Endless One. Now, this is an interesting card. It is a rare Eldrazi. It is an X mana 0/0 entering the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it. Now, here's where I think is the interesting question. In Sealed and Draft is fantastic, but the question is, someone was talking to Mark Rosewater, I think it was Matt Sperling, who was like, hey, you kind of got rid of all of the uniqueness from Eldrazi. Eldrazi aren't unique anymore. And he was like, what do you mean? And they're like, you literally made an XX for X spell that's a creature, and that's all. And you're just calling it Eldrazi. There's nothing unique about it. It's just a dude that's however much mana you want to put into the dude. And so there's a question there of, did they go too far in removing the uniqueness of the Eldrazi by allowing you to have a 1 mana Eldrazi?
Yeah, because when you say Eldrazi, what do you think Eldrazi are?
Right. They're like these huge, crazy, monstrous behemoths of Magic.
Yeah, and the spawns don't even like deal damage. They just like are there for the Eldrazi to eat or use for whatever.
Right.
And now that they attack, and like, yeah, I completely agree. I think like this feels very Sliver-esque, where like, where do you go from? Well, the other thing too is like, the Eldrazi were mysterious back then. We only saw the gigantic ones, the World Eaters and like the Destroyers, And now when they're coming out, yeah, these do just feel like big fatties. They don't feel like Eldrazi.
Yeah, I mean now they have these, like they have the drones and they have the processors, and there's like, 3 mana processors and there's 4 mana drones, and like it feels like there was something really cool and unique about the monstrous, everything is super expensive, but they have these crazy abilities, and now it's like, well, you could play a 1 mana Eldrazi here, you could play a 2/2 Eldrazi, which is like just doesn't feel right.
Yeah, especially with like Nest Invader and Kozilek's Predator, like those kind of creatures were green, but they also were fighting for the Eldrazi.
Right.
And now it's all just Eldrazi. Like why couldn't they still just be like the overlords? Why couldn't the Eldrazi just be that? And instead of being Eldrazi drones and Eldrazi processors, why couldn't they just be like different creature types, but that they were corrupted by the overlords?
Right. They were serving them at that point rather than being them. So that to me is an interesting design question. I think when they look back on this block and the design of this block, I think that's something that deserves talking about. Is did we kind of mess up the flavor of Eldrazi by allowing there to be a 1/1 Eldrazi or a 2/2 Eldrazi? Like that's a question.
And it's a really good question, actually, and I never thought about that because I kind of like just play the cards. But yeah, if it like Emrakul means something to me,
right?
And not many cards actually do mean anything to me, but like Emrakul does. And yeah, seeing Endless One kind of diminishes that because like this is also the one thing I hate about Endless One is it is technically could be bigger than the biggest Eldrazi.
Sure. Not only, I mean, like, and the flavor text tried to sell it. The flavor text, it embodies all possible meanings of the word infinite. But you know what? It also embodies all the meanings of finite.
Yep.
Like, as a 1/1. And that's lame. Now, again, you're never going to play it as a 1/1. I'm not saying you are. This, to me, is a higher sort of end discussion as to, did they really damage what Eldrazi were supposed to be in this set?
Do going back to the same worlds actually give us what we want?
Yeah. And in this one, I'm not sure if they did. I really don't.
Yeah, I'm not that excited. I mean, there's a lot of worlds that I still want to see out there, and there are worlds I'd like them to go back to. But the thing is like, are they going to ruin my childhood and tell me Santa Claus doesn't exist by going back to Innistrad?
Sure. I mean,
like, is that going to happen? Because Innistrad holds this really special place in my heart where I still love everything about it.
Right.
I even have songs that make me think of Innistrad because it's so flavorful. And
when they go back, which they are, I mean, I don't want them to just like change things for the sake of changing things.
Yeah, I completely agree. And since for that song, I'm finding it because I'm just grabbing on my phone. I'm sorry.
Oh my God.
You go to the next card and I'll say the song, but I have an Innistrad song that I want the world to know.
Okay, you can't play it because copyright.
No,
but you could tell me.
Of course, I can say it.
You can say it all day. Now, Endless One in and of itself, just so we get this out here, is not constructed playable. Correct?
Yeah, no, not at all.
No. Okay.
Blue Sky, Black Death, Ghosts Among Men. Check it out.
Wow. Okay. Google that. So, Gruesome Slaughter is an interesting card. It is a rare sorcery for 6 mana. And it says, until end of turn, colorless creatures you control gain tap. This creature deals damage equal to its power to target creature. So, it kind of sort of fights itself. You have to have a big army, and it has to have not traded off. You haven't traded off all your resources yet. You don't really want to trade off all of your creatures for their creatures. The idea is that all of your creatures are bigger than their creatures, at which point I go, why aren't you winning anyway?
Yeah, or you're using all the little Eldrazi processors, like all the Devoid cards. Mm-hmm. And yeah, like these are the cards that I never like in Magic. They print them, and here's another one. Like these are Eldrazi, yet this card has been printed 4 times now.
Right.
Like this exact type of card, and they're all bad, and they never even are that good in Limited. So I don't like this card.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem that great, and I don't like how it kind of puts you in a weird position of just not wanting to attack or not wanting to use the resources that you have because like you're trying to make this Gruesome Slaughter as good as it can be.
Yeah,
it's not very good. Kozilek's Channeler is another one of those like, what's an Eldrazi? Why is an Eldrazi an Eldrazi? Well, it's a 5 mana 4/4 that taps to add 2 colorless mana to your mana pool. Okay.
Sure, from the flavor it's not good, but this card is actually very impressive in play.
Oh, it's bananas in Limited for what it's worth.
It's so for it hits all your, it makes all your Awaken really good. It makes all your Eldrazi really good, like your big ones. Right. Not your 1/1s, not your 1/1 Eldrazi, your 2/2 Eldrazi, your 3/3 Eldrazi, but your 8/8 Eldrazi.
Yeah.
And yeah, it helped me get all the Awaken to go off like really fast. So I liked this card a ton.
Yeah, this
and it's just a 4/4, so it helps with like when you're playing cards like Titan's Presence, you can actually kill big things.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like as a card in limited, I think it's amazing. Again, I think you kind of bring up the design question of what's an Eldrazi, because now this Eldrazi is making mana. It's not their spawn. It's not their scions. It's an actual Eldrazi. So that's a thing. But it doesn't matter. Like gameplay wise, this card is fantastic.
Yeah,
card is super good. It takes you from your 5 mana to your 8 mana because you play a land the turn that you on your next turn. So all of a sudden you have 8 mana where you didn't before. So this guy is very good. When my opponent played it against me, I killed this thing immediately.
Yeah, it's a very scary threat because it's also a threat on its own. It's a 4/4.
Exactly. So it's both good by itself and it's good because it channels the so many cards through it. We're going to bring up Oblivion Sower, another card I got to have personal experience with, and it was my pre-release foil. So lucky me. I got the 6 mana 5/8 Mythic Eldrazi that when you cast him, your opponent exiles the top 4 cards of their library. You may put any number of land cards that player owns from exile onto the battlefield under your control. Note that it doesn't have to be just those 4. Any cards they've exiled, you get. And let me tell you, this card is the business.
Yeah.
This card takes people to school, will show them where science class is, and here's the gym, and there's the library, because, wow, this card is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems so powerful. Like, I've cast it in Standard so far, and I haven't really, they've never, dug through time before I've cast an Oblivion Sower. Sure. And it's weird in Standard because sometimes you hit, like, fetch lines that you can't fetch, so you have to have a weird mana base. Yeah, that's happened.
Wow.
But in Limited, it just seems like unbeatable because it's a 5/8 for 6 mana that you're going to accelerate, so you're going to get to do everything your deck can do the next turn, and you exile 4 cards from their deck, so now they're going to deck before you no matter what. Weird. So, like, the game has to end for them, which is not a big thing, but it is a thing, especially when there's a real thing of, like, ingesting. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, this card is just awesome.
The Nutter Butters, my good friend, they are stone cold.
Yeah.
This is the stone cold Nutter Butters. Oblivion Sower is amazing, easily first pickable, always play it. My God, I would not be surprised to see this thing in Standard. I think they've pushed it as far as they could push it, and this card is super good. Really good. Speaking of a good card, as we continue through our colorless cards, Ruin Processor is a 7 mana common Eldrazi as a 7/8, and when you cast it, you may put a card an opponent owns from exile into that player's graveyard, and if you do, you gain 5 life. So not only when I cast this card did it bring me back from single digits back into the teens, it helped me win the game because it's a freaking 7/8.
7/8 for 7,
My God, it's huge. So, yeah, this card is good. This card is powerful. And, again, it's one of those where there's a weird kind of push and pull in the set where, like, you have all these small creatures and you have these crazy huge creatures. But, like, there's so many ways to bridge that gap that, like, this card is very, very playable and very, very strong.
Yeah, no, it seems like a very good Magic card. I haven't seen it yet, but gaining 5 life does seem great when you're trying to set up these big boards because, like, the ally decks or the early decks are trying to beat you down, right, and you finally stabilize with your big creature, but you're too low in life, and that's where that 5 life is going to be a significant boost.
And that's exactly what happened. I mean, basically, my opponent was able to get in with flyers and these little dorks or whatever, and then when I finally was able to play a 7/8 and gain 5 life and go from 9 to 14, all of a sudden the game turned around for me, and I won shortly thereafter. Card is extremely good. Speaking of a card that is very interesting, Scour from Existence is going to be, I feel, one of the most expensive foils going forward in terms of long term. Scour from Existence is a 7 mana colorless instant that exiles target permanent. And what you have here is a Casual All-Star, is a card that I have already heard people who play Commander, I said the C word, already play Commander, have put this in a ton of their decks, will go into literally any deck, any Commander deck. It is colorless. You can play it in any of them, which means they're going to need multiple copies. They always like the foils. I think the foils are going to look great, and I played this thing in my limited deck, and it was awesome. I just can't imagine a world where casual players don't want to play with this thing all the time.
Because it's just, well, yeah, especially in Commander, like some color combinations just don't have removal, so you finally, like a green deck can finally exile something.
Exactly. It just answers
that's awesome.
Any problem that you have, it's going to answer it.
Yeah, that is really good. And then, yeah, it probably looks like it'd be good foil, too.
Yeah, it'd be sweet foil. So were you able to actually see this in play or play with this yourself?
Not once.
Not a once.
Nope.
Now, I will note that it was tough getting to 7 mana, as it sometimes is in Limited, and it did take an Eldrazi Scion or whatever to get me there, but it doesn't matter, because I was able to take the enchantment off my Drana and beat him to death with her. Because Drana is a fair magic
What
card.
enchantment?
It was the blue -6/-0, the Pinned of the Earth.
Because you have to deal damage, yeah.
Exactly. I have to deal combat damage to him in order to trigger Drana, so I was able to, end of your turn, scour from existence your enchantment, at which point he immediately scooped his cards.
Yeah.
He was like, oh, I'm dead now. And I'm like, yeah, you're dead now.
You're pretty dead.
This card is very good. Titan's Presence was a card that I got to play, but I never actually drew. A 3-mana instant uncommon. As it additional cost to cast it, you reveal a colorless creature card from your hand. Exile target creature if its power is less than or equal to the revealed creature's power. So this is one that I was pretty confident with all of the Devoid cards, the Devoid creatures, and the Eldrazi creatures. I would have enough targets to make sure that this thing worked.
Yeah, same here. I actually had it and didn't draw it either. I had 6 to 7. I kept boarding between 1 or 2 of the 8/9s for 8.
Right.
But I never drew it, but it seemed like it would be good. And the worst I could do was exile 3, which seemed fine.
Sure, which is good. You know, I mean, again, this to me is very playable in almost any limited format that it's going to be in.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's very good. Sealed or draft. I mean, you're going to build around it in draft, and you're going to know when you want it. And in sealed, there just seems like enough Devoid to where it's just a good removal spell.
Yeah. So we're going to move on here to Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger, another one of my rares from last night. A 10-mana, 10/10 legendary Eldrazi, the only Eldrazi that came back for this set. When you cast him, either whether or not he's countered, if you just cast him, he's exiling 2 permanents. He's indestructible. Whenever he attacks, defending player exiles the top 20 cards of their library. This card is incredibly exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I've been casting it a little bit in testing, and you get to 10 mana, and the game's pretty much over, no matter what, because even if they deal with Ulamog or counter it, you're exiling their 2 threats
right.
That are in play, or even, because it's 2 permanents, you can just color screw someone, even in this multicolored format. Like, there's usually just have 2 red sources, you're like, kill your red sources, or kill your white sources, or kill your green sources,
sure.
or black sources, like, it just happens, and it's been phenomenal, and it's won a lot of games. So I actually think that even though the next set is going to help with the ramp strategies, we might see Ulamog-based ramp strategies existing even now.
Nice. Well, I think the card is extremely good. I drew it a couple times, was unable to get to 10 mana, even though I was close. Because
see, I had it too, and I just didn't put it in my deck because I knew I wouldn't be able to cast it.
Yeah, it's one of those, like, you know, like, I wanted to play it because he's Ulamog, man. He's awesome.
Yeah.
And I had Eldrazi Spawn, and I had Oblivion Sower, and I got to 8 mana, and I had the blue flyer, the 4/3 flyer that when you hit them, you scry 2. And I saw 2 lands on top of my library, you know. And
you still bought them, though.
Oh, no. I put him on the top because I wanted to cast it, but it didn't matter because my board was insane and he scooped before I ever got to play it.
Okay.
So it made me sad, but you know, this is one of those that I think it's far more constructed playable and or casual playable, but in limited, I think you're just more or less money drafting.
Sure, yeah.
Basically, it's just not that playable. I mean, maybe in draft if you're just like got all the crazy Scion activating cards. That
I think you can. I think in draft you're going to be able to build a Eldrazi ramp decks. If there are 10 mana spells in this format, and it's designed to put 10 mana spells on, and it's not possible to get there, like, then there's something messed up.
Fair enough. So in draft you're getting there. In sealed, I just couldn't make it happen. And I had enablers.
Yeah, that's the problem with the sealed format. There's just too many schizophrenic pools because there's so many synergistic things you need.
Right. So Ulamog is amazing. However, he has a Despoiler. Ulamog's Despoiler is a 6-mana uncommon 5/5 Eldrazi processor. When it enters the battlefield, you may put 2 cards your opponents own from exile into their graveyards, and if you do, it enters the battlefield with 4 +1/+1 counters on it. So all of a sudden, you have a 6-mana 9/9.
And here's the thing where, like you're saying, like, this just doesn't even... This just feels like they had to make Eldrazi and they just got bored.
They were just like, what do we do? We'll put counters on it. Why?
Make it bigger. It's so boring for a Magic card.
Yeah, it could be a lot more interesting and or exciting. And again, if you had a mechanic that only the Eldrazi have, like, you know, and it wasn't this drone processor thing, you could keep the Eldrazi unique. Even if it wasn't Annihilator, it could be something different. But when you start giving all the drones and all the Eldrazi to all the different colors, whether or not they're devoid or not, you just start to water down what makes them unique. And this, again, this card could be green. This card could be white. You know, I mean, like, this card could be almost any other color that works with +1/+1 counters. And as a result, it's just like, the card is great. Don't get me wrong. This card is a bomb uncommon that you want in all of your decks. But as a Eldrazi, I think we're just starting to lose it a little bit.
I agree, except we're going to find it.
Yes, but you know what, buddy? I can't even.
Yeah, you can't even?
Void.
Yeah,
Winnower.
I've been saying I can't even multiple times while we had all these technical difficulties.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have climbed the mountain with this complete set review. Let me tell you what.
This is just showing how much we love you.
Yes, we did not give up even after we had to redo black, blue, and white, blue, and black. For God's sake, help me! Twice we did them twice. And here we are, not evening with Void Winnower, which is a 9-mana, 11/9 Mythic Eldrazi. Your opponents can't cast spells with even converted mana cost. 0 is even, by the way. It says it right there. Your opponents can't block with creatures with even converted mana costs. So there's a lot that you can't do. This card is extremely unique. I think this card is cool. It's huge. It's strange. Like, this is, at the very least, feels more Eldrazi than most that we've been talking about.
Yeah, and this is what I want Eldrazi to do. They just don't make sense. Like, this card doesn't make sense, and that's probably why it's like this. And it's a mythic, and I don't even think it's that good. I mean, it's fine and limited. I don't think it'll see standard play. Like, but like, that's what I want Eldrazi to do. I don't want them to make sense. I want them to have weird abilities. I want them to just. I mean, they're these, right? Like, they didn't come from this planet, right? Sure. And so that's what I want. I just don't want us to understand them. And so, like, this card is exactly what I want out of an Eldrazi.
Yeah, it is as weird as they come. It's strange. It's alien. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, this is a really nice design, and I really appreciate that. I also, because I'm a nerd and I counted, there are an even amount of words on this card.
An actual even amount of words?
I'm sorry, not even an odd amount of words on this card. There are.
There is an odd number on this card. Yeah, I counted too. I counted the first time I saw it.
Yeah, it's like 43 or something. But, like, there's an odd number of words, odd power, odd toughness, odd casting cost.
Odd set number.
Yes, I love all of the weird craziness that is happening on this card, and this is a home run. I thought this was really great.
Yeah, this card's awesome, and especially, like, they have jokes. If you look at the comprehensive rules text, they even have it there. It's like, yes, your opponents can't even.
Your opponents cannot.
Yes, we know.
We know. We're aware. Which is
your
fine.
Opponents can't even.
Exactly. So those are all of our colorless cards. We are going to move on to our land cards, which are always exciting. We have the Ally Encampment, which is a rare land that taps for a colorless. It taps for 1 mana of any color to add to your mana pool, but you may only spend it to cast an ally spell, and 1 tap sack. Return target ally you control to its owner's hand. So you can get that final rally trigger that you need. This is the land that gives it to you.
Yeah, it's a really cool card, and if there's better allies in the next set, we might actually see it in Standard. And I do like that they've just been printing these lands for a lot of the tribes.
Yeah.
Just because they help out the older formats if people want to play those decks. Like Sliver Hives and all the things like that. So, like, I do like this card a ton, and I'm glad it exists. I'll never play it probably, maybe in a limited deck. That's the top end. But I'm glad it exists.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's absolutely fantastic. And that, again, just like Sliver Hive, you have these, is this your tribe? Well, here's your tribe's land. And you're like, sweet. I like this card a lot then, in that case, which is sweet. So, it's going to power you forward. It's going to give you that final ally trigger. And this is the type of land that just sort of does everything you want it to do in an ally deck, which is great. Blighted Cataract is our first...
Whoa. I thought, isn't Arid Mesa next?
No.
No? Arid Mesa's not in the set?
No, they are apart from the set, sir. If you are
But I saw people open them.
Yes, if you're talking about the expeditions to Moneyville.
Yeah.
Like, we're on a trek to find $100 bills. And
I actually just feel like these things are just going to turn out to be, what are they, the little plushie toys?
No.
The little Beanie Babies?
No. And as a matter of fact, I personally believe that these cards are going to be worth far more than they're being valued at right now. That
really?
They're going to be in the $300 to $400 range and not in the $100 to $150 range moving forward, because there's just so few of them. There's just like, someone did the math and it was something like $18,000 to get a playset, which is ridiculous, and that's just at like current prices. Because when Battle for Zendikar goes away and the booster boxes for it are absurd, put your kids' college fund money into them now, because in 5 years from now, they're going to be like, oh man, the Polluted Delta is going to be like $800 because no one has them. They were extremely rare. You don't find them anywhere else. Like, I think they're actually being undervalued right now, and that over time, the expeditions are going to be absurd.
Wow.
That's just me. I'm not a finance guy.
No, I could see it. Like, I personally have never gotten into that. I like my cards to just be the language that I speak, no foil, all the same from the same set, just as boring as it can be.
Foil?
So I don't like foils.
Dude.
Because I don't want to be that guy that has the foil Emrakul's and everyone's like, he's stacking his deck.
Oh, jeez. Well, you can still have the foil Delvers, and you could just bring them in, and you can still play your checklist cards.
I do have a foil Nissa, and I do like the fact that I have checklist cards so that I can play with my foil Nissa, because that's the one rule breaker.
There you go. As it should be. All right, so expeditions aside, Blighted Cataract is an uncommon land. It's our first of the Blighted cycle. There's an entire cycle, one for every color, and this is the blue one, and they all tap for a colorless, and this one says blue 5 tap, so 6 mana tap, sack it, and draw 2 cards, because, you needed your lands to be even better when they're blue themed.
Yes, you do need good lands, and I think that this could potentially be a one-of in a lot of blue control decks in Standard.
I absolutely can see it, because, again, like, when you have that much mana and you're just kind of sitting around, and even at instant speed at the end of their turn, if they're not doing anything, sure, I'll remove 1 land to draw 2 cards because I have, like, 10 in play.
Yeah, I think this is one of the better ones in the set.
Absolutely. So, Blighted Cataract is extremely good, very much playable. Blighted Fin is the black one. It is the, again, uncommon that taps for colorless, but for 5 mana, black and 4 colorless, you can tap, sack, and target opponent sacrifices a creature, also extremely powerful.
Yeah, I like this one a lot, because this can just come down and kill a Rhino on curve, and I think this is the best of the cycle.
Yeah, this seems to be incredibly powerful. Speaking of probably the worst of the cycle, we're going to bring ourselves on to, the Blighted Gorge.
I like this card. I see this as a couple you can play in a red deck too. Sometimes you just need to get that last point's damage through and you don't have a burn spell.
Maybe, I don't know. A lot of red decks are very red, it's like mana oriented or mana themed that they need red mana, but the Gorge itself taps for a colorless, or for a red and 4 colorless, tap sack, it deals 2 damage to target creature or player. Meh.
I mean, it is meh, but it's not the worst.
It's not the worst.
The next is the worst.
Okay, fine. The worst being Blighted Step. All right, white pulling it through. For the white version, it taps for a colorless, or a white and 3 colorless tap sack. You gain 2 life for each creature you control.
So you congregate. Yeah, white gets nothing. That's why Gideon, like we said in the first review, Gideon is so good because white gets this crap.
Yeah, white just, I mean, like, this is where it should have popped out, like, ally tokens or something. That would have been sweet. Like, would give you, like, your rally triggers or whatever. But instead, they're like, when white has to go safe, it's just a healing salve / gain some life, whatever. Card's bad.
Yep.
Next one, not bad. In fact, I would argue if the black is the best one, this has to be the second best one. Blighted Woodland is the green version that taps for a colorless, and green 3 tap sack, search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them on the battlefield tapped. That to me is good times.
Yeah, I think this card's decent. I played with it a little bit. I like it in the ramp decks because sometimes you have too much of the fat department, not enough ramp, and your mana base is part of the ramp, and you're not really that color restricted because you don't really need that many different colors. Like, once you have 1 force, you have 1,000,000 force in a ramp deck.
Right.
So you don't really need that many, and so I have been very impressed with playing like 1 to 3 of these. I don't know exactly where I'm going to fall out.
Wow, actual constructed goodness.
Oh yeah, this is very constructive playable.
Nice.
In a ramp strategy, yeah, for sure.
Sweet. I mean, I just love that it's just ramp on a land, colorless, still producing that, and like, card seems really good.
Yeah, double landfall triggers for limited.
Yeah. Gotta love it.
Or triple, you can play it, then sack and get 2 more. That could just win the game.
Yeah, you could. I mean, and it's fixing all your mana, and you have all these converge cards that it helps with, and so, like, there's plenty to enjoy here. We have our first Tango Land and or Battle Land or whatever.
It's a battle land.
Battle Land. What's it going to be with Oath of the Gatewatch? Are those going to be Oath Lands?
No, they'll be battle lands.
Oh, and then they're going to be Battle Lands Part 2.
It'll be the green-white battle land or the green-red battle land.
You know what it takes two to do, sir. And it takes...
What? Do a set review.
Yeah. You trying to say something?
I mean, no, it takes two to do a set review.
Yeah, it does.
I answered your question.
It takes two, sir. For Canopy Vista...
That wasn't a threat if you want to keep calling them Tango Lands. I'm not saying that. Like, I don't know why you're implying.
I don't care. Like, it just, to me, it's just a silly name, and everyone, like, just lost their minds. And they're like, oh my God, you can't call this thing I don't want you to call it because reasons and hatred of you because you're trying to call it a thing. I'm just like, wow, you guys are getting way upset over a silly nickname.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, I do agree that when new lands come out, we should have a good name for them.
Sure.
And make it universal because it's like, as a content producer and a writer about Magic, I don't want to always have to say Canopy Vista and Cinderglade, etc. I want to say a name that we all know.
Sure. And it's nice to have those standards out there. It was just, it got a little much.
It did. I mean, well, yeah, people were bored and they didn't. It's the internet.
I know, and they were just getting outraged at nothing. And regardless, these are all. There's a whole cycle of these. These are all currently for the allied pairs of colors. So Canopy Vista here is the rare forest plains, which is the most important part. These are basic land types, which add green or white, of course, as forest and plains do. But they enter the battlefield tapped unless you control two or more basic lands. Now, to fully explain how insane this is, this allows you to have a swamp and an island and then use your wooded foothills to go get your Canopy Vista to make white or green. So, because once you have any two basic lands, not a basic land, not a basic plains or a basic forest, no, any of them, all of a sudden it's completely insane. So
yeah, so we've all been, the internet has just been going crazy about how to figure out mana bases in Standard, and there's a lot of ways to do that. And I mean, we haven't fully understood it. We will once we get some tournament results in and the hive mind starts working out all the kinks.
Sure.
And once that happens, like, I think it's going to be a crazy format.
Yeah, I think I think it's not going to be long before we're kind of sick of 5-color mana bases being perfect and being perfectly playable always, because that's kind of where we're going.
And it actually might be. I don't know where I'm not going to even take a stance anymore. Like, I've given up. Everyone has an opinion of it, so I'm just going to wait and see.
But Brad, this is where you get to say that opinion.
Well, my opinion is these mana bases are good, but I don't know yet, and I don't like being wrong. Or I know that they're good. They're obviously good. I think 4-color mana bases are good, but what blows my mind is when people say I'm playing like Obzon splashing blue, but not playing any Sandstep Citadels. That blows my mind.
You don't need to.
Because, like, yeah, you don't need to. Which, that's crazy to me. See, I could see, like, some kind of Naya splashing another color, like Landfall deck, like we talked about, with a bunch of fetch lands and dual lands and a bunch of basics. Right. I can see why that deck doesn't want any tri-lands or whatever, and you just want to have all the basics and all the fetch lands because you're trying to be aggressive. And I can see that deck punishing these 14 fetch land decks.
Sure.
That are just paying every single turn to play spells.
Yeah, I mean, like, so, it allows you to just do that kind of over and over, and just, I don't know, man. I think, like, the fact that you don't need Sandstep Citadels in your Obzon decks, and Wizards is not only okay with that, but is encouraging that as a result of these lands. Ugh.
It's crazy.
It's a little crazy. We have, of course, Cinderglade, which is the red-green one. We're going to move on here to Evolving Wilds, which is the next one alphabetically. Now, Evolving Wilds is kind of your limited giveaway in terms of, like, here is your limited fixing. It allows you to get 2 landfall triggers, and it's as much landfall as we're going to give you. It is always playable and limited, just like it always is. And one of the interesting things to me about this was Evolving Wilds, this card in particular, this, the Battle for Zendikar land, Evolving Wilds, was seen in a parking lot outside of a game store, like, stepped on, ran over, and it was like, hey guys, is this real? And, like, Reddit was just like, what? They spoiled a card and it's in somebody's parking lot, and why is it in, like, Texas? And, like, no one knows why. I thought that was really cool. So for Wizards, kudos on that marketing, guys. You did a great job there.
Well, or it wasn't a marketing. They're just lucky it was Evolving Wilds.
They're just lucky it was Evolving Wilds. Or they could have had someone literally just drop it outside of a store where they knew players would notice and or maybe pick it up. I could actually see them have done that multiple times. Like there were multiple stores in which they did that, and only one of them actually paid attention and saw it.
Yeah, I mean, that would be crazy.
I mean, again, when it comes to viral marketing, buddy, gloves are off.
You have to do it, yeah.
You got to do whatever you got to do.
Really cool.
So that was awesome. And Evolving Wilds ultimately, I mean, is there anything else you want to say about Evolving Wilds?
Dear God, no. I've said so many things about Evolving Wilds over the years. It fetches for a basic.
It fetches for a basic, you say?
Never see standard play, always great and limited. Better in this format because of multicolor, converge, and landfall.
Right. There you go. Next up is Fertile Thicket. This is our first spell land. Now, there's a whole cycle of these, one for every color, and the spell lands enter the battlefield tapped like this one does, which is the green one, and this one says you may look at the top 5 cards of your library. If you do, reveal up to one basic land card from among them, put that card on top of your library, and the rest on the bottom in any order. How insane is this card?
It's so good in limited with the converge decks. I would not play it in the 2-color deck. Mm-hmm. Because I just never want to draw it when I need to cast my spells.
Sure.
But when you're a prismatic deck in limited, it's going to be phenomenal.
Yeah. This card seems really good when you're trying to make sure you get 3 colors to happen or 4 colors to happen. Mm-hmm. This is the one that you get just every copy that they'll give you. Just bring it. Just give it to me.
Especially since green is your basic lands, the generally your most dominant color. Mm-hmm. That having your first land be green is also great. So it's just the perfect color for it.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. So that spell land is terrific. We're going to go through some of the basics here. We have the forests, which are pretty. We're going to keep looking for not the forest. There's the islands, which are great. I love Noah Bradley's work. I thought he did an amazing job. There's the Bucket Island that came back. Do you have any opinions on the Bucket Island returning?
That's my favorite island that's not unhinged.
Yeah. I think it's
Bucket Island is my actual favorite non-unhinged land.
There you go.
And if you had to say I couldn't play unhinged anymore, I would go back to my Bucket Islands.
I love the Bucket Islands. They make me so happy. Looming Spires is next. Looming Spires is the red spell land. It enters the battlefield tapped. Whenever it enters the battlefield, target creature gets +1/+1 and gains first strike until end of turn. How good is this and what we were talking about in terms of the red-green landfall deck?
I don't think it's good enough in that because the mana bases are a little bit different in this new standard format, and the cards are different. Back when Teetering Peaks was around, there weren't Siege Rhinos.
Sure.
And so, it's way different. I would rather just have more fetches for my dual lands and trigger that way as opposed to playing this. Plus, Teetering Peaks was 2 damage where this is just 1. Yes, it might get a guy through, but I would much rather just make sure my mana base is correct.
Fair enough. So moving on, I think Looming Spires is I mean, in limited, I think it's great. It's fine. You can play it. If you're in red, there's no reason you should not play this card, which is the answer to most of the spell lands. I think we made a point in terms of the Fertile Thicket, which I think it was. That one is arguable should you always play it in your green decks, but Looming Spires, if you're in red, you should play this card.
Yeah, it's going to get something through at some point or another.
There you go. So Lumbering Falls, we are our first creature land, if you will, if we're trying to keep it neutral. And it is the whole cycle of creature lands that came from Worldwake were completely insanely powerful. There was the black-red one, which was bad. There was the green-white one, which was okay. And the rest were ridiculous and have seen play all the way through Modern, all the way back into Legacy with Creeping Tar Pit. Yeah. These lands are fantastic. When you have a land that fixes your mana and is also a spell, that is not to be underestimated. And I would argue you should never underestimate a card like Lumbering Falls. It enters the battlefield tapped. It is a rare that taps for green or blue. And for green, blue, and 2 colorless, it becomes a 3/3 elemental with hexproof until end of turn, which is still a land. So this card with Awaken spells in particular, for me, is very exciting.
Well, see, you keep saying that. I would rather awaken a different land because I don't want my other creature land to die because it doesn't have hexproof anymore.
Fine.
You love that. Let's put some I'd rather put the counters on the life gain one because that'll die anyway to removal spell.
Sure, and I would rather do it on that one too, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But in and of itself, just by itself, I love the fact that this type of land is perfect for ending control mirrors. When your control deck and their control deck, and you have the fatties and they have the fatties, and you're trading removal and you're killing all the guys, when everything is said and done, they're probably going to be holding a removal spell, and that's where Lumbering Falls is just going to kill them.
Yeah, it wins those games so badly. But like right now, I don't think this card's going to shine that much. It's going to be played, but that game isn't going to happen until Den Protector's gone.
Sure. I mean, like, you're going to have... Well, and I think, Sultai may be able to get there. I don't know about Temur, but, like, Temur's always been bad, so Temur's bad. But Sultai maybe.
This helps Temur get there, though.
I mean, Temur needs all the help it can get. Certainly. Maybe this is good enough. We're going to move on here to Mortuary Mire. This is the black spell land that enters the battlefield tapped. When it does so, you put target creature card from your graveyard on top of your library. This card is ridiculous.
Yeah, I had 2 of it in my deck, and I played a black-red aggressive deck, and it was so good to, like, late game. I was able, especially with that equipment, that bounce.
Right.
I played the equipment, got this back, attacked, put a creature on top, and I put my entire graveyard back on top of my deck. And I'm like, maybe the card that I'm not going to see for 4 turns was really good, but I bet it's not better than drawing a creature for the next 4 turns.
Absolutely.
And attacking for a bunch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this card is nuts. Now, is this card standard playable?
I don't think so, because, like, not... The problem is we have to wait until, like, the fetch duel, like, Obzon, all these awesome cons cards format is gone. Like, a lot of these cards are just overshadowed by the power level of cons block.
Like, you really don't want one of these in Obzon to get a Siege Rhino and put it back on top of your deck, to put the Tassiger back on top of your deck when they finally kill him?
Yeah, but see, the problem is if you draw it in your open hand, you're putting into play a one type of mana tapped land.
Right, which is...
That doesn't help your dual lands later.
Sure, which is why I suggest only, like, 1. But, like, the ability to rebuy your best creatures, which are going to be dying at some point, feels like it's worth it. I mean, is it just me?
I mean, it is... No, the entire world, it's worth it to everyone. That's why we play Den Protector.
Nice. So, what you did there, fine. I still like it, and I want it to be great. Just whatever. Fine. So, we're going to move through our mountains here. Wizards, why do they make the normal land frame lands? It's like they're just trolling us. I hate that.
Yeah, they didn't want to, like, dump too many, I'm guessing.
I just hate it. I just can't stand it. We're going to move through our plane. I think they should all be full art. When we're in Zendikar block, they're all full art always.
I agree.
None of this garbage where the intro pack lands are the old frame, because they look like crap, man. You take all this art and you make it look worse. What are you doing? Mm-hmm. Anyway, we have Prairie Stream. Prairie Stream is the blue-white dual land, the blue-white battle land, if you will. And which of the battle lands do you think is going to see the most play? I'm just asking. I'm just asking a question because I'm trying to make it interesting.
The most play, I would say, the blue-black one.
The blue-black one. Okay. Fair.
Like, because most of the other decks are only going to play 1 copy, whereas I think the blue-black control decks will play 4.
Sure. All right. So moving on here to Sanctum of Ugin. It's kind of wants to be Eye of Ugin, but now there is no Eye of Ugin, so it's a Sanctum instead. It's a rare land that taps for a colorless, and when you cast a colorless spell with converted mana cost 7 or greater, you may sacrifice this land. If you do, search your library for a colorless creature card, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. Is this good enough to be played? Like, is this one of those weird cards that's going to be seen as a one-of in Tron?
No, they're just going to Eye of Ugin because they just want to find the Emrakul and kill them with it.
Okay, I mean, like, they could...
And it helps.
Yeah, I mean, to me, like, they're going to be able to play Scour from Existence in that deck, which I think could be playable. The 7-mana exile thing. And or play Karn and then go sacrifice this and go get a Wormcoil Engine or whatever. But, it was just one of those cards that when you start dealing with these crazy mana costs, Tron is kind of where my brain always goes.
I mean, maybe people will try it, but I don't think it's that good.
Yeah. So does this have any sort of reach in Standard?
No. I think the other one does, that we'll get to. Shrine of the Forsaken Gods.
Sure. We'll talk about that here in a bit. Now, Sanctum of Ugin, in terms of limited play, is basically always playable. It's more or less harmless. It's this added value on top of a land that you're going to be playing amongst your 17 others. And to me, just seems like value that you always want to have in your deck.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Once you play the big creature, you're going to be able to go find something else. Even if it's smaller, it's still a free creature.
Right. So we're going to move on to Sandstone Bridge, which is the white spell land, which of course means it's got to be not good. It enters the battlefield tapped. Target creature gets +1/+1 and gains vigilance until end of turn. And of course, it taps for a white. So, yeah, this seems like the short stick.
It's not that good. I've seen it in play and it was fine. But the first strike was way more relevant.
Right, and the vigilance is just not. It's not big enough to really matter. We're going to take a look now at a card that I can't believe is named this, Shambling Vent. What does Shambling Vent have to do with a black-white land, particularly the vent part, where we've always seen steam vents, for example?
Yeah.
And instead we have a Shambling Vent, so, okay, that's weird. Anyway, this is the other creature land in the set. It is a rare that enters the battlefield tapped. It taps for a white or a black, and for a black-white and a colorless, it becomes a 2/3 elemental with lifelink, and until end of turn. And so, yeah, this card is very, very good. My opponent played it against me, and I had to kill it immediately. And because this is the type of card that can slowly but surely make you lose the game when it's on their side of the battlefield, because they start getting this sort of incremental, I just gain some life and deal you some damage, gain some life, deal you some damage, and the meters start going the wrong way, and then all of a sudden you're dead.
Yeah, and I've had such a huge a good impact on Standard, and it's been so good in the Obzon decks that I've been playing. It helps trigger Wingmate Rocks even when the games are super stalled out. I've been able to, on turn 5, animate it and fight with Jamoka's command and gain some life and put a counter on it and do some really unique things. I can't believe they printed an Obzon Manland in this format, regardless of its name. It's still just too good. I would have much rather seen a white-red one, just something to fix the other decks.
And we're going to. They've already promised that we're going to get the other 3 in Oath of the Gatewatch, but, the fact that, Obzon needed no help.
No, and now it got some.
And it got some when it didn't need it, and it's even better than it was before, and it was already more or less agreed upon as the best deck. Even though mill decks are winning Grand Prix, Obzon is still amazing. And yeah, this card is just fan-freaking-tastic. It's the type of card that can pull you into black-white if you're opening it for your first pack, of course, or even if you're opening it later. This card is extremely powerful. So we're going to move on here till Shrine of the Forsaken Gods. It's much like Temple of the False God in some ways. Now, it's a land that taps for a colorless, and it can tap for 2 colorless as long as you are using this mana to cast colorless spells, and you can activate it only if you control 7 or more lands. So Temple of the False God was a card from Onslaught, as I recall, and it would only tap for 2 colorless if you had 7 lands or more.
Six lands.
I think
it could be your 6th land to get you to 7.
Gotcha. So 6 other lands, 7 lands total. And
no. 5 lands plus 8.
Oh, 5 lands. Okay, so 6 lands. Yeah. Okay, I understand. So, and otherwise, it didn't even tap for mana. Is that correct?
Yeah, it did not tap for mana.
Yeah, it would only tap for mana if you had the trigger to make it do so. And ultimately, that ended up being a very standard playable card, as I recall, because Onslaught kind of happened right when I got back in the game, so I missed some of the sort of the tail end of that. But either way, Shrine of the Forsaken Gods. How do you feel about this card?
I like it. It helps curve, especially with Explosive Vegetation and the land that does Explosive Vegetation, to your Ulamogs in the green decks. I've actually found when I draw 2 of this card, I'm able to cast the Ulamog on that turn, on that 5th or 6th turn because of ramp, thanks to ramping out. But without him, it always took an extra turn. So I think that this card is very good.
Nice. So in this card, you think actually could see play in maybe some of the modern decks?
No, because getting to 7 lands is that's way too far.
The games are over at that point, basically.
Yeah,
but maybe
7 lands. You don't even want 7 lands in play. You're probably dead with that many lands in play.
There you go. You flooded out and died, is what happened.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we're going to move on here to Skyline Cascade. So I got to play with this one myself. This is the blue spell land. When it enters the battlefield, tap target creature an opponent controls, and it doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. This card is very good.
Yeah, to me, this is the best one.
Yeah. Well, of course, it's the blue one, right?
Yeah, so it's always the best one. Yeah, it comes into play turn 1 if you wanted to. Later in the game, it is an actual spell. You stop the creature from attacking you next turn, so it's really good at shutting something down. You can hold it for a while. It combos really well with the equipment.
Right.
Just constantly keep something tapped every single turn. Yep. It's just very powerful. I think it's the best in the set by far, and I don't even think they're even comparable.
Yeah, I mean, the power level is just so high. I mean, I get +1/+1 or vigilance, or I take care of your biggest threat.
For a turn,
Yeah. No matter how big it is, it's going to let me attack, and you're not going to be able to untap with it, and that is incredible just for a land drop.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, it's super, super good. Now, Smoldering Marsh is the black-red battle land. It's a swamp and a mountain. Can't come into play untapped unless you have 2 or more basic lands, as we spoke of. But we're going to move on to Spawning Bed, which is a really interesting land. It's an uncommon that taps for a colorless, or 6 mana, tap, sack. Put 3 1/1 colorless Eldrazi Scion creatures onto the battlefield. So it kind of makes attackers, it kind of makes blockers, and it kind of accelerates you all at the same time.
Yeah, this is great. This is my one utility land outside of the black spell lands, and I love this card. I didn't even have any gigantic Eldrazi in my deck. It was just I wanted to play 18 lands, and I can get 3 1/1s out of the deal, and like maybe Alpha Strike or something like that. Like I was just very impressed with this card, and it's good in the ramp decks. It's just we've seen like the Thopter land from Origins put 2 1/1 flyers into play, be very good and limited.
Right.
Just a land that can help your consistency. Of just making sure you hit land drops, because 17 lands is really where your color requirements are in Magic, and the 18th land doesn't really need to be a color requirement unless you're like playing double white and triple white spells or stuff like that, or double white and triple blue.
Right.
Or, that is not even how I said it. Double blue and double white, or 2 double colored in the same deck.
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to say. It has been a long set review.
It has, and we're getting our way through it. Spawning Bed is sweet, however. I like the idea that we have a Eldrazi Scion land. I like that lands can do things like this, and I think that's a bonus.
Yeah, very good card.
Super good. I love it, I love it, I love it. Sunken Hollow is the island swamp that you mentioned should be played probably more than the rest because it's black-blue, and those are always very powerful colors. All right, and we have our
that's everything.
We have our swamps. Are we through the swamps? Oh my god! Oh my god, Brad!
That's the set.
Oh my god, Brad is the set! Oh,
that's the entire set. We've had changes, we've had difficulties, but we still did the set.
We're here for you, people. We're doing this. It took us 3 days, something like 20-something hours. By God, we made it happen. Brad, you're a trooper, dude. Seriously.
You are as well, sir.
Oh man, we got there. We were in the mud, we're in the muck, we were in the technological problems, but we saw and we came and we overcame. Yeah.
Conquered? Is that?
Yeah. Conquered.
Because we did finish.
I'm losing all of the cohesions, bro. I'm just.
Yeah, I know.
We have spoken and said so many words about so many cards, ladies and
gentlemen. Sometimes the same card multiple times.
Multiple times. And then sometimes like, well, maybe we should just redo white later so we don't just retread exactly what we said previously, and I hope that happened. Yep. It doesn't matter. We've recorded so many things about so many cards. Yep. But, ladies and gentlemen, you were with us for all of them, and if you haven't been, you can always go back and watch them. That is our complete set review. We thank you so very much for watching. We thank our Patreon backers who helped make all this happen. You can reach us, or you can help support the show at patreon.com/magicshow. Brad, thank you very much for your time and assistance, sir.
For sure, Evan. Thank you as always. I've loved the Magic Show since I've started playing Magic, and now I get to be part of it, so I would never miss it for anything.
Brad, you're amazing, dude. And thank you guys so very much for watching again. We'll be back here in 3 months-ish with...
Oh, that's soon?
Yeah, I know, right? Oh my God. It's just going to be...
Why are we talking about the next 10? Let's just relax after this.
It's just going to be a small set, Brad. It's going to be okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, for the final time for Battle for Zendikar, I am Evan Irwin.
I'm Brad Nelson.
We tapped all the cards.
So you didn't have to.
Thank you guys very much. Good night.